make sure we don't have any of those again, so. Does anybody know where, is Mr. Biggs? Is that gonna be here all night? Okay, so note that everyone is here and accounted for except for Mr. Biggs. All right, first up is approval of the minutes from the June 5th, 2017 meeting. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mr. Brooks. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? Seeing none, that item's passed. Or any objection? Seeing none, that item's passed. Any old business, Mrs. Owens? Okay. On to new business. This is application for on-premise beer permit for Olympic Steakhouse and Pizza LLC located at 5183 Airline Road. Mr. Lawson.
This is an application for a new on-premise beer permit for the new Olympic Steakhouse. It'll be very soon. Approved. Application has been made, background checks have gone through, and staff recommend approval.
Further recommendation from Mr. Lawson. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Pardue, excuse me. I'm a little under the weather, guys. I'm sorry, Ms. Harmon. Mr. Harmon. See, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, we're on the main motion. Yeah, exactly. We do have a public hearing for this, so do I have a motion to suspend the meeting and open a public hearing by Mr. McKee? Second by Mr. Brooks. Okay, we are on the public hearing now for the application for on-premise beer permit for Olympic Steak and Pizza, 5183 Airline, Tennessee. This hearing was published in the Daily News on May 1st, 2018. Anyone wishing to speak for or against this request, please stand and be recognized. Is anyone here to speak on the, can y'all not hear me? I saw somebody hold their ear up, so I didn't know. Is anyone here to speak on the public hearing? Seeing none.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, there we are.
Just if there are any questions, my name is Jeff Land. I'm an attorney in Memphis, Tennessee. I've been representing the Sennis family that owned the currently 3 Olympic Steak and Pizzas, one in Atoka, one in Millington, and one in Oakland. And this will be their 4th, and they look forward to coming to Arlington and serving everybody out here. And I've known this family and represented them for probably 20 years. They do an amazing job with consistency and food, wait staff, and they look forward to coming out to Arlington if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to answer them. I do know that the anticipated opening for the restaurant right now is mid-September. And hopefully that won't get pushed back.
All right. And will you state your name and address again for the record, please?
Jeff Land, 435 South Prescott Street, Memphis, Tennessee.
Thank you very much. When we get back on the main meeting, if there's any questions, we'll be sure to call you up.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Anyone else here to speak on the public hearing? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing and resume the board meeting?
Second.
Mr. McKee, second by Mr. Brooks. All right, any discussion or questions for staff and or the applicant who's represented here? None?
Well, what I got is
Mr.
the same
McKee.
one as always. Make sure you know about the Responsible Vendors Act. You can get with town staff and also the policies that we have in place for different things with violations.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Are y'all having trouble hearing? I see people.
I can't hear.
Nobody can hear? Is the volume turned up out there?
Testing.
Turn the room down a bit, and feedback on these mics. It's part of the technical difficulty. These mics are on, you can't hear those mics.
Okay, so check.
Testing.
Is it on?
Yeah, it's red light. Testing. Try yours.
Yeah, check. All right, well, I guess does it work? Ms. Owens, do we know if if we turn these off when those are on, they won't get the feedback? We can,
I hear it.
I know, but I'm saying if somebody's speaking on that, can we turn these off and that will cut back on the feedback maybe? Okay. So
Did you hear what I?
the Responsible Vendors Act, which he was talking about, was it Mr. McKee? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That item passes. Any other new business, Ms. Owens? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn the beer board meeting? Motion by Mr. Brooks, second by Mr. Harmon. With no objection, that meeting is adjourned. And so now we will move on to our regular monthly Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for Monday, May 7th, 2018. Please note that everyone is here with the exception of Mr. Biggs, who I think is traveling. So if everyone will please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the prayer, excuse me, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Do you mind saying the prayer?
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight, and Lord, we just ask for your blessings on our town. Lord, we ask you for wisdom and for each of us up here, for our townspeople. Lord, I just pray for comfort for any hurting families, anyone struggling. Lord, I want to pray for our firemen as they went through a difficult rescue earlier in the last month. And Lord, if anybody's struggling with that, Lord, I just pray for those men and women and thank you for them. Lord, thank you for our town. Lord, I pray for our president and our governor and our mayor and any elected officials in our state and country, Lord. We just lift them up and lift up our townspeople. In Jesus' name, amen.
Lieutenant Wiseman, do you mind leading us in the pledge? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm okay. Next up, do I have approval of the minutes from the April 2nd, 2018 meeting? Motion by Mrs. Pardue.
Second.
Second. Any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motions, or all in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, item passes. Next up, grievances and comments from citizens. This is where we allow anyone to come forward and speak on any particular topic. We'll give you up to 3 minutes. We do ask you to be respectful of the board and staff. And please note that it's not necessarily a Q&A, so if you ask some questions tonight, they may or may not get answered during the meeting if we're discussing or not. We do our best to try to, but we don't always get a chance to, but staff will take a note and get back with you. So is there anyone here to speak in the public comments? Nope. Okay. Next up, communications from mayor. Sheriff's Department report. Do we need to turn our microphones off?
I'm Sergeant Cockman with the Shelby County Sheriff's Office here with the Arlington Crime Report, April 2018. We had theft from motor vehicle reports. We had 3. They happened on April the 4th. The location would be 6055 Airline Road, and then the Kim Tainer Industries. GIB detectives are reviewing their video security system to see if they can get any suspects developed. Then we have one theft from motor vehicle where the suspect information, they do have suspect information on that, and the detectives are currently working on that right there. He's known by the family, the suspect is. Also, I want to bring into y'all's attention the false pretenses, swindle, confidence game. That's where somebody's calling your house and asking you for monies, like right then. They may use the sheriff's office, they may use some other agency. Be very, very, don't give them any money. Don't go get a Greenbelt card and don't give them your credit card number. But we appreciate them reporting that because it brings it to our attention where these calls are coming to. So other than that, that's the end of it. I had one myself. I told them I'd meet them at 2:01, and they wouldn't meet with me. Yep. Exactly. So, thank y'all.
Good evening, James Harville, Fire Chief Arlington. This is the monthly activity report for April 2018. Made a total of 75 responses. 37 of those were EMS, 38 were fire. Mutual aid was given 16 times. We received it 9 times. We had 16 calls on or south of Interstate 40. We had 1 working fire, which was mutual aid given to Shelby County Fire on Millwind. Within the town of Arlington, we had a balcony fire in Arlington Manor. And thanks again for those prayers for that fatality wreck that the guys worked on Interstate 40 on Saturday, the same Saturday April in Arlington, April was. There was 2 instances where Arlington Fire was on calls and we received mutual aid. Did a total of 12 inspections. We hung 1 smoke alarm rather, and then 5 smoke alarms were distributed. We had 4 events for updates. The turnout extractor we've ordered, we've spoken about that before, it'll clean our turnouts. We've made that order and we've requested building repairs to be made on Fire Station 71 to get that installed. The outdoor warning siren, as you can see, has been put up. It's only been growled, is what they called it. The last 2 Wednesdays have been overcast, and so Shelby County Office of Preparedness would not test it. So hopefully this Wednesday it'll be clear and you'll actually hear it for the first time. It has to go through a couple test cycles before it's finally finished and completed, so we're waiting on those. TOSHA came in and finished a TOSHA audit within the town of Arlington. We had a few findings, and we're working with the department heads to correct those findings. And last but not least, the guys that worked the Arlington April said it was probably the best turnout we've ever had. We don't know if it's due to weather or the APTA running it, but it was a very nice turnout. Did a good time. So that concludes our report. Yes, sir.
Just in lieu of the accident that happened last month, you know, when things happen like that, it starts to get questions around moving forward with second company, second stations. I know you've been working on that.
Yes,
Just
sir.
curious if there's an update. I know that you'll report to the fire and safety, but just to let people know.
I mentioned to Mrs. Durant, I said if she could give me a couple of weeks, so we're hoping to have it by the end of this month. The final report, we're adding just a few little finishing touches. We're getting our last maps and our last statistics. We had some conflicts going through the state INFRS reporting system. The times and dates didn't match what was actually being reported. So we're finalizing and cross-checking our information, but we really hope to have it by the end of this month is our goal.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know if everybody kind of knows what happened last week. Can you kind of give us a quick synopsis of?
Yes, sir. Normally, we don't put an extra company in for Arlington April, but being my first time here working the Arlington April, we all chose to add a second company that day and called in overtime. We were nearing the end of Arlington in April when they reported to a car wreck. Lieutenant said, hey, we see smoke, you know, you got reports of smoke? And they said, yeah, we have a report of a car on fire. I know we work closely with the Shelby County Sheriff's Department and THP as far as the calls. We really don't know, but there was a total of 6 vehicles involved, 1 box truck and 3 other cars. 3 of the cars were pretty severely damaged, 2 fatalities. 1 was burnt beyond recognition, but the guys had to cut out. We had to wait. We actually shut the interstate down probably roughly 4 hours probably. I'd have to look and see, waiting on the medical examiner to come out before we can physically remove those bodies. So we assisted them removing the bodies. We worked closely with Shelby County Fire as well. They assisted us in performing some of those extrications. So the guys did a phenomenal job getting on the scene, doing a triage. Of course, if you've seen any of the pictures, the box truck was well involved. And so having that extra company allowed us to do a good fire suppression and allow one company to concentrate on just the extrication. We received an update 3 days ago, I believe it was, that the father and son that we extricated has been released from the hospital, and the little boy is recovering. He's still pretty bad off, but he's recovering, so it was encouraging.
Good. Is anyone, Mr. Harmon?
I'd like to really commend decisions that it saved lives.
I think so as well.
Wrong inside, because having the win, we're able to
Mm. I concur. I think their positive decisions on the scene and their quick reactions saved those 2 guys. Had the wind been blowing in another direction, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs. We can what if to death, but I agree with you. Yes, sir.
I make all day on my end.
That's right. Yeah.
So I know exactly what's going on the guys. Seeing stuff like this, it's very difficult. Being able to keep on doing your job and keep on doing it. Anybody that's coming, owning this
Plus, we've really worked closely with our fire chaplains, helped the guys out. And Shelby County Sheriff's Department's also offered one of their counselors that's working with our guys for a critical incident stress debriefing. So it's been good all around, all the support we've gotten, so thank you.
Very important because I know you're well aware of the statistics on firefighters, that stress, well, there's more firefighters due to that stress.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments for Chief? Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Please relay the thank you to the guys and girls. All right, next up is, I guess, my report. I always say I'll keep it brief. Just have a few things. Speaking of Highway Patrol, TDOT and everything on the interstate, I know Miss Durant sent a email out. We're trying to work on some signage and getting our name back up on the interstate where they've taken it down in some places, and we're still, I spoke with Congressman Kustoff's office the other day just to give him a heads up in case TDOT's blaming it on federal, to ask if we can get federal help on it, because it doesn't make sense that you have Millington, Collierville, and Jackson, Mississippi, but you don't have Arlington. So we're trying to work on that any way we can. So, I know we have some APTA people here and some on this board that were there. Arlington in April, I heard nothing but great things from top to bottom on it. And I think there was a huge soccer tournament in town too. So I was actually out in Collierville a week later, and somebody said, man, what do y'all got going on out there? Because there was just, everywhere I drove, there was people, there was tents, there was stuff going on. And I said, well, you just came on the busiest day of the year, but it's good. It's good that people see that and people know that. So I want to thank everybody from the APTA for taking that back over. It takes some burden off the town to be able to have volunteers to take on these events. I know it's not a rewarding job from I see you back there, but it's a tiresome job for all you do, so we appreciate that. The chamber lunch is next Wednesday. With the way this meeting or this month's set up, sometimes it's the same week, sometimes it's the next week. It's next Wednesday. Myself and Ms. Mason did attend a opioid roundtable last week with Congressman Kustoff. It was kind of like a random mix of people. I think he did one last year. Mr. Ant went to. He tries to do that regularly, so he just kind of pulls different people from different areas. So it was a good discussion. I know that's a big hot topic going on. So that way everybody from police, fire, EMS, hospitals, leadership, schools, everything are kind of trying to get on the same page. Actually, there's a lot going on in town. I think everybody knows, and I may be try to get some sort of update together with Angela so we can kind of put it out, because I think we forget everything that's going on right now. I mean, down in the square, you've got four under construction that have either dirt being moved or materials being delivered, and the fifth one's about to start. We have, of course, Olympic. And I'm sorry, Mr. Attorney, you don't have to stay. You don't have to stay if you want to go. He reminded me that you were here a second ago. So, no, if you want to, we're not talking about you anymore. So if you want to go, you can go. Okay. You don't have to leave. I just didn't want you to feel like you had to stay. So. Okay. There you go. We look forward to it opening up. Well, good. We're looking forward to it opening up. Thank you very much. And so that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of good things going on, and I think we have a bunch of little things going on everywhere, and it's hard to piece them all together. So I may try to work with Angela on getting some sort of list so we can kind of update it, because we actually had a group from Alabama coming up the other day and met myself and Angela for lunch just to ask about our zoning and ask about, so it's weird when you get a senator from Alabama calling you, and I looked up his name on the website, and I thought he represents Shelby County, so I thought I called him, kind of gave him a smart aleck answer that this was Shelby County, Tennessee, and he told me he knew this was Shelby County, Tennessee, because I thought he had it mixed up, and he said, no, I'm in commercial real estate, so we want to talk to you about some projects up there. So they're next week. Who is that?
The 9th?
Oh, Wednesday, May 9th. Oh, it's this week.
Yeah.
This week, yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I
I'm
was-
confused.
that's
Yeah,
what
see, I said next Wednesday. See, I'm confused on our first Monday. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Chamber meeting is this Monday. Wednesday. Guys, I'm sorry I'm sick. I'm just, great.
I can get something passed.
Graduation is May 15th. Ms. Mason, do you have anything you want to say about graduation or schools real fast, or?
I just would like to report that this Thursday, we will be having a work session on our budget, and then the board will vote on our budget May 22nd, and then we'll be ready to deliver that to you all.
Okay, thank you.
We also will be including our five-year strategic plan that many in the community have taken part in as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do have one thing that I'm going to kind of throw on Brittany because I just thought about it right before the meeting started. You know, we have holiday, like Labor Day, Memorial Day, we move our meetings back a day. With the 4th of July being on a Wednesday this year, I didn't know how much of the board was planning to travel on the long 4th weekend, if that was going to be an issue with, I didn't know. Huh?
I'll be traveling next month, but I'll be here on the 4th if needed.
The 4th, okay, because the 4th is on a Wednesday, so I just want to make sure.
I'll be here the 2nd then.
It would be the 2nd, be that Monday, and I didn't know if people were traveling or not. I may be, I don't know. So if so, we'll be okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Lamar?
On the 28th of May at 9 o'clock at the Arlington Cemetery, we have our annual Memorial Day service. It goes from 9 till 10, and we have a World War II POW speaker. We'll have music this year. We didn't have music in the past. And we have the folding of the flag and a 21-gun salute. So it'll be noisy as well as entertaining. And breakfast at the Church of Christ after the ceremony. Bring your lawn chairs. And hope the weather's pretty, and it only lasts about an hour, so join us on the 28th.
28th of this month.
28th of May, 9 o'clock at the cemetery.
Okay.
Thank you.
What time is the school budget work session Thursday? What time is your work session Thursday?
5:30. You're more than please come and welcome to come.
That's all I have. I just thought about that 4th of July, because I know last year we had 1 or 2 people out of town. That's why I want to make sure. Any other announcements anybody needs to make? 4th of July, fireworks show, anything?
That's not the 4th. Let's see, Kevin, the 30th?
June
30th, yeah.
30, so it's that Saturday of that weekend. Okay.
Expect a big one because Bellevue's not doing theirs this year.
Oh, really? Okay. Any other announcements from anybody? Okay. On to the committee reports. Let's see. Do any of the committee report chairmen want to report anything? Okay. Treasurer's report.
I'll let them talk about the budget in a little bit.
Yeah.
A couple of topics. The general fund had a beginning balance of $2,716,175.84, and the ending balance of $3,822.53. The sewer fund had a beginning balance of $2,119,341.34, and an ending balance of $2,156,000. Oh, good Lord.
You don't have your glasses on. I'm sorry. I'm sick. You don't have your glasses. We're
Look, my
Motley Crue.
glasses. $2,158,465.48.
There you go.
Swear I won't drive off without my glasses again.
Did you drive?
Thank you. Maybe not.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? All right, let's go on to old business. Any old business, Mrs. Owens? On to new business. Item A, first reading of ordinance 2018-05, adopting the annual budget, board compensation, and tax levy for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2018, ending June 30th, 2019. Mrs. Owens? I know you're probably in a wood. I don't see anybody from the finance meeting here.
They are not here today. I'm just going to stand up this year to present, just so I can see my PowerPoint. Everyone was given the capital improvement plan previously, so if you guys have questions about this tonight, you can also ask them, but I'm not going to go over that in detail. Let's see. All right, so the town of Arlington has 4 major accounts. We do have the general fund, which is our operating, street aid and solid waste, which are special revenue accounts, and sewer, which is an enterprise account. For the purpose of today, we're only going to talk about general fund as it goes to operations day to day. All right, our general fund revenue breakdown is shown right here. Our projected revenue is $8,437,000, and I'm sorry, I'm doing what you did. $8,437,551, which is an increase of about $313,000 over last fiscal year, and that is due and largely in part to your certification of your census. For anyone that doesn't know, our special census was certified at 13,217 residents, which is an increase of 1,127 people. Each penny of the tax rate generates $38,970.80. You will see that that's an increase of $1,596.67 over last year's amount. This is just a fancy chart to show you the difference. Property tax does remain the majority source of the revenue for the town of Arlington, and it's about 52%. We are proposing with this budget that the property tax rate remain at $1.15. And real and personal property tax in regards to this budget has been calculated at a 95% collection rate, which is up. Last year we used to do 95 and 90, so it is a 5% increase on your personal property tax. This is your general fund expenditure breakdown. As you can see, both your revenues and expenses are presenting a balanced budget tonight. If you look at the bottom, $671.94 per resident is what we had for expenses last fiscal year. You will see that even though we have had an increase in numbers and an increase in revenue, it has decreased the amount per resident when you do the math on it. So it's a decrease of about $33 per resident that we have to provide all of the services in town. Salary and benefits and elected officials equal out to about 42%, which is significantly low in comparison with other cities and counties. We do a lot with a little, and we still are proposing that. In this budget, you will have 2 new positions proposed for general fund, one in the admin office and one in public works, and we're still sticking with that amount, staying fairly low. This is a breakdown of the departmental charts. You can see the fire department still remains the largest piece of the pie at 27%, but that is down from 29% last year. And then one thing I do want to note on here, education is 7%, but the way we arrive at that number is we take each penny amount and we times it by the 15-cent equivalent, which is how we work out that total. So that $584,562 is going to be what we actually transfer to the school for that 15-cent equivalent. State street aid. The largest portion of revenue from this fund is the transfer from general fund. We're proposing $1 million transfer this year. That is up from $900,000 last year. And any penny that you transfer into this fund is going to be used. There's always enough work in this fund. Some projects, which we will have updated on our website shortly as far as updates on the projects. But we are, Highway 70, we've acquired the right-of-ways. We're working through some technicalities with the paperwork. So we're hoping that project's going to keep moving forward. And then Airline Road, we've actually started the process of right-of-way there, so you will see some expenditures and revenue from the grants in next fiscal year, hopefully. One increase that I do want to point out is your state gasoline. It is up about 2%, not much, but it's the new fuel tax that they enacted July 1st of this year. It's about $45,000 that's going to go directly into street aid, but it has some discrepancies with it, I guess, because it has lowered some taxes from general fund. So it's not additional money, it's just reallocation of money and where it goes. Just like you'll see in general fund, state street aid is a balanced budget as well. And the largest portion goes to repair and maintenance for 32% of our budget, and that's what we use to be able to do major road projects and materials and everything throughout the year. Solid waste, the largest portion, which is 94%, comes from your sewer rates that are charged to your residents and your commercial users. And your expenditures, the large portion goes to actually pay the contracted service for solid waste. So that's pretty much a wash in that fund. Sewer fund is, largest portion is also your sewer service charges. This is commercial, industries, residential, across the board. Solid waste is one that is strictly residential because we don't offer commercial services, no, any longer with this contract. So this one does include everyone. And what I want to point out, we have been talking in the Finance Committee about a sewer rate study. We got some information back today. It's not finalized. We're still working on it, but this budget is proposed with an 8% increase across the board for residential, commercial, and industrial. And that's going to work out to about 23 cents per CCF and about 61 cents on the base rate when you do the 8%. All right, your expenditures, again, are going to be a balanced budget. We are proposing in sewer fund to spend $400,000 out of reserves or retained earnings. A lot of that is going to be in purchase of the SCADA system, which is the brains of your operating plant. It's very outdated, and I wish someone with wastewater was here to give you more details, but if it goes down, basically your entire plant can go down, but it's also kind of outdated, so this new software would be able to allow them to remote in access, save you on some overtime costs, and maybe fix problems quicker as well. So we are proposing to spend that out of retained earnings. One thing I do want to note, you guys have been given a bound budget. If you were at the Finance Committee, I pointed out 3 pages that are going to change. They should be tabbed in your packet. It's your ordinance, and those are going to change once we get the school's numbers. They are working through their work session. Miracle and I have been in constant contact, so as soon as they get those figures worked out, they're going to send it to us, and you'll see them change between your first and your second draft. So at this time, Finance Committee, which none of them are here, but they recommend this, staff recommends it. We've had several department head meetings. We've talked about budget cuts. If you guys have questions about what was cut, I'll be happy to answer it, but at this time, staff recommends approval.
You've heard the recommendation by Ms. Owens. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Brooks. Second by Mr. McKee. Discussion or questions? Again, remember, this is the first reading, so, you know, there's just a lot of details you need. We can sit back down before the next meeting. I mean, general questions and stuff tonight, or as much as you want, but I'm just saying, if there's something that really intricate. I don't know if she has all that information at her hands right now.
do.
She may have to, do you?
I'm
Okay.
ready.
All right. So questions or comments?
Can you go back to our revenues
For general fund, sewer, general fund.
for general fund? Property taxes, is that normal,
Yes, sir.
52%?
Your property tax, your state share taxes, and your local taxes are your largest portion of revenue, generally.
I'm sitting on the Finance Committee this time, I paid a little more attention to some of the things that I probably just let go in one ear and out the other the last few years. The sewer was the one that stuck out the most to me, that how it wasn't particularly paying its own way, per se.
Right.
So that's, the study is, I'm glad to hear it's back.
Yes,
I
sir.
hope we hear what I want to hear. I hate to raise your fees, but I'll be glad to do it, because it needs to fund itself. That's about it for me. I'm good.
I will say that
Great. Staff works hard.
I applaud staff, Finance Committee meeting, and the alderman, just because I think it was the most well-attended Finance Committee meetings that we've had. So it was, to go there and see almost the entire board there, almost every time at some point, you know, it was nice. So, Mr. McKee, you have a question?
I was just going to say, thank you to yourself and Kathy and staff leading the Finance Committee in this, but the committee did a great job. And also thank you to the department heads, because without you guys and understanding as a team what it takes to get our budget in where it has to be, this could be a long, drawn-out fight, not getting anywhere. And, but everybody's playing on the same team and trying to get the same goal. And as an alderman, kind of outsider not on the committee, but watching, it was nice to watch everybody coming together, trying to figure out how the best way to be able to get this budget balanced. So, and it's nice to see a government have a balanced budget. So thank you for everybody that worked on that.
Questions or comments?
Hey, we're all quite cordial with one another too, so that's a
There's-
plus, right?
So, Brittany, it looks like you may get off the hook tonight. No
I have
questions?
one thing I do want to point out, I meant to point out earlier. In your ordinance in section 5, it talks about it says during the coming fiscal year, the governing body has planned capital projects and proposed funding. And that calls out the grants we talked about with the Airline Road and Highway 70. But it also calls out your 4th Street LPRF grant. We are hopefully getting ready to go out to bid for construction with that. So you'll see that being expensed out next year. That's not something we put in our budget typically because we amend it as it's expensed with the grant. And so if our entire amount is spent next year, it's about $800,000, that's our portion. It's a 50-50 matching grant, but also the 4th Street campus is in there with your bond issuance. It is budgeted in here if you were to draw down the entire amount. Our first bond payment is actually in August of this coming year. And then also your tennis complex is not in the budget, but it's in the ordinance to be moving forward as well, and that's budgeted to come out of reserves as well.
Any more questions or comments? If you do, or if you think of some after this, you can get with Ms. Owens all over the next month. Appreciate the work. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Resolution 2018-26 to enter into a development agreement with H Saga International Incorporated for the construction of Hayesville Arlington Commons PD located on the eastern end of Mott Street. Mrs. Reeder.
Good evening. As you mentioned, this is for a standard development agreement for Hayesville Arlington Commons. They are on the far eastern end. You've seen this multiple times. This is their last step in front of the board. This property here that used to be the community garden, adjacent to the TDOT maintenance yard. The project itself, just a reminder, is a mixed-use development. It's got commercial, office, and residential within it. They most recently received their approval of their construction plans at the April meeting in front of the Planning Commission this year. So this resolution would allow the mayor to enter into a standard development agreement due to some public improvements on the property. And it also includes a description of the development fees that would be due, which are $4,252, as well as the engineer's estimate for bonding for those public improvements, which is attached here. So we're recommending approval of it as it is in front of you, and I can answer any questions you have.
You've heard the recommendation by Mrs. Reeder. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion by Ms. Pardue. Second by Mr. McKee. Discussion or questions? I think we've talked about this one several times.
This one's been hashed out really
Yeah.
good.
So yeah.
Just-
Mr. McKee.
Just want to make sure everything is in agreement with all the property owners that are involved in this, the driveway, et cetera. I know there were some concerns between the Grapevine and the railroad tracks and that driveway right there. I just want to make sure everybody's been, all parties are aware and have agreed to what needs to be done.
Ms. Sherry last week with Jeff White, and she's in the process of hiring an architectural engineering firm to lay out her site. And is in the process of having them communicate directly with the engineers of this site, so she is on board with where we are.
Good.
Thank you.
Point. Any other questions or comments? Mr. McKee.
That driveway that, I've had concern with coming from the railroad track, has that been discussed? Yeah, the turning, if you're coming across the railroad tracks and you're going to turn right into the lot?
There shouldn't be any holdup if you're northbound turning right into the lot. I think one concern, at least that I had, and if I remembered the previous discussion, was like 18-wheelers coming in and out, and other delivery trucks. They are proposing the connection now to the Dollar General lot, so there would be direct access to Highway 70. I'm comfortable and feel comfortable that that will alleviate that turning concern.
So we're likely not to have an access for 18-wheelers to come in that way. They're going to probably try to encourage them to come the other way.
Yes, sir, we're going to encourage that for sure.
I just don't want it to back up on the railroad track.
Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Next up, Resolution C, 2018, or C, Resolution 2018-27, to authorize Mike Wisman in his capacity as mayor of the town of Arlington to execute documentation necessary to authorize the town attorney to file condemnation lawsuits to obtain right-of-way on necessary easements for the project known as Depot Square realignment. Huh? Mr. Steve, okay, yeah, exactly, it has Angela down. Mr. Steve Hill is going to talk about this before we get to motion.
I'm going to try to fill Angela's shoes tonight. This project, of course, has been going on for a few years now. It originated, I guess, 4 or 5 years ago in the interest of trying to provide a safer condition for traffic in this area. The eastern part of the roadway is one way, and I would almost, I started to ask a question, do y'all know if it's one way north or one way south? Because if you ask most citizens of Arlington, they may not know, and that safety factor was a big issue, I think, in wanting to try to improve the conditions here. And so what we're proposing is to make the street on the east, as you come across the railroad track, let that be the through street, two-way. The stop condition then on this intersection, and that way anybody coming over the tracks has a free flow to continue on. Improving the intersection down here, there's a whole lot of asphalt in here that's very confusing to people right now, so we're trying to fix that as well. Obviously, with the things that are going on around Depot Square, pedestrian accessibility and safety is a big factor. If you think about trying to walk from here to the new campus and park, where do you do that? Out in the middle of the street right now. So we were trying to improve safety for vehicles, safety for pedestrians, and then the third thing we're looking at, which doesn't show up on this plan, is drainage improvements. I know we've had issues with that building on the corner. It's had some flooding problems, and we're going to be doing some adjustment of grade in Forest Street in this area to create an area where water can be captured and taken through underground drain system that will come out into the ditch over here. So with also some area drains along there. Essentially, the roadway is on top of what's there today in terms of pavement where the road sits today. We tried to keep it exactly where the street is now, what everybody's accustomed to. So the acquisition of right-of-way has been a process of just really trying to clean up the records. If you look back through the history of whether there's a public street there or whether there's not, there are very few references to it. There are a couple in some of the old deeds, but rather than trying to allege that we have a right-of-way already, I think we took the approach, and Kathy Gerald, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we want to be completely fair to the property owners and say, there's where the lines are according to the survey. For the Masonic Lodge, that line there. For Vinegar Gems, again, the same line. And so we said from that point, let's just clean all this up and acquire right-of-way to the back of sidewalk on both sides officially. And you can't tell it very well, but the edge of pavement is just about where the gutter line is proposed to be. We're also controlling access where we have an uncontrolled access to the parking lot. We're limiting that to in and out, or actually they'll both be two-way driveways, but 2 driveways there. So again, all of that is intended to improve the safety for vehicles, for pedestrians, and for the development that's taking place. I don't know how well you can see that photograph. We were trying to superimpose the proposed improvements over the existing street. just again, to emphasize that we're just keeping the street where it is and improving it. So happy to answer any questions. I know there might be issues related to acquiring right-of-way that Gerald needs to address.
You've heard the recommendation by Mr. Steve, I can't even say it right now, Mr. Hill. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Brooks.
Second.
Second by Mr. McKee. Discussion or questions for the legal side, engineering side, town side? I do know that this has been 4 to 5 years in the works, I think, Mrs. Durant. And it's been a long, slow process, but I think it's one that's needed. And I hope we've tried to do our best due diligence moving forward, and it's just been a slow process.
As somebody that grew up out here, I've been confused by that street, driveway, parking lot since I learned to drive, so I'm finally gonna get some definition as to what is water. That tickles me to death. I like that. It looks good. Good job.
Questions or comments? Mr. Arman?
It looks good. I applaud your efforts on it.
Microphone?
It's on.
Okay.
The safety issue is our main thing that we're really looking at. Just like the other weekend when we had so many people down there, everything that we're doing in Depot Square is going to bring more and more people. So, yeah, this is going to really greatly enhance the walkability and the safety. One of the things that I would suggest engineering look at is, once everybody gets within this area, is looking at the speed limits within the Depot Square area. My recommendation is, let's make this 20 miles an hour down through there, because people are walking through there with their kids, strollers. I've seen people flying down from Forest, past the ball fields, where there's a lot of kids out, or coming from the other end, down Walker, and coming into where we have new buildings going on now. And people are going to be stepping out in front of this traffic, so
Yeah.
and I would like for you to look at the speed limit just in that area.
And I know there's some issues, Kathy, you're familiar with what the sheriff's department tells us about speed limits and how they enforce it, but obviously we want it as slow as possible. We're going to have some crosswalk signs, wrong direction, for that crosswalk, because that's going to be a critical point, because that's a mid-block crosswalk. Those are always a little more dangerous. So we want to emphasize by using the brick paver type surface that makes it more visible, white lines, and Jason, you can tell me if we're using flashing pedestrian crosswalk lights, or if we're just, there's an option to have a light where you push a button, but that's something you have to maintain if you do that, so.
I see some heads shaking yes, some shaking no, so I don't know.
Coming from somebody that walks past one every day, they don't look at it.
People will ignore them, and the fact is, from, yeah, that's going to continue on and become a major pedestrian thoroughfare. I think the fact that we're so close to intersections on both ends, you're either crossing the tracks or you're turning, you don't have a lot of time to build up speed, at least in this segment. Now, the Forest Street issue is another, your point's well taken, that traffic.
It's coming into Depot Square from the far side and from the Walker side, right near the library coming in. So we really need to kind of look at slowing that traffic down as they're approaching into Depot Square.
Yes.
Because we have the new developments coming in right there at Quintarn and Walker. They're right on the street,
Yep.
as the old style. We don't want somebody stepping out on the Walker and getting knocked to Forest.
Right. And I think our goal long-term, starting a long time ago, was to get Milton Wilson out to 70, which takes truck and side truck traffic and everything else off of this area. So we're trying to get any major transportation connection for vehicles and trucks going around here and just local traffic going through here. So I think we've all been working in this direction for years now, and it's starting to come to fruition. Pretty exciting to see.
Mrs. Owens?
I have a statement I have a statement to read from Mr. Biggs that couldn't be here tonight, and he just wanted this read onto record. So it says, "I support Resolution 2018-27 for the mayor to authorize the town attorney to file condemnation lawsuits to obtain right-of-way and necessary easements for the Depot Square Road realignment project. I trust the town has made a good faith effort to obtain this property at fair market value through negotiations with the property owners. The planned added curb and gutter, sidewalk, and parking spaces for this project will enhance the focal point of our town, Depot Square. The proposed project will alleviate some drainage concerns, increase safety in the area for pedestrians by providing sidewalks, will produce safer interchanges, and will add additional public parking for local businesses and town events."
Thank you. Yeah, and I think, just not to get everybody held up, the condemnation word kind of scares everybody a little bit, but just know that there has been a lot of good faith in this. Mr. Lawson?
Again, to address this has been going on for several years, going through, there's 5 parcels originally, we've secured 3 of the 5 parcels. I'm not saying we won't continue to try to work with these other 2. I believe we're getting a little bit closer to negotiations on this other one. In order to not delay the project and coincide with the other projects, we need to have the authority so we don't come, obviously, before the board only once a month without a special problem. So we're just still going to secure, try to, if we can secure these without condemnation, but so that we don't delay it another month or
Yeah.
possibly push the project down the road. That's what we're doing with condemnation.
Yeah. I think if everybody, I think it's a win-win for everybody, so just listen. I know we tried, so. Any other questions or comments?
Well, for me, yes, for me, it's important that at this point in the game, knowing what, as Alderman Harmon has mentioned, with the future developments of the 4th Street campus, it's going to be even more important now to get this area addressed and the safety addressed in this area, because there's so much foot traffic and increased vehicle traffic with these town events and soccer events and things of that nature. There's going to be so much more going on down there, and I think what we have here, I'm very impressed with it. I think it's a great proposal. I think it addresses all the needs that we have, and I think it's fair to the businesses in that area. So I also approve moving forward.
Gerald, I hate to put you on the spot one more time, just so everybody's clear, because I know the people out here sometimes don't, they all see is the condemnation and all that. Really, what is the discrepancy? The discrepancy on some of this is an old right-of-way in the middle of the road, correct? Can we make sure that everybody can hear it?
The issue on these 2 different parcels is that the property owner's deeds go to the center line of the road. That's not uncommon for old deeds, people on the center line of the road. That being said, the city, county, in our case, the city has a prescriptive right-of-way, which goes back to the plat that was originally town, which described over here. The town's maintained it. We have a prescriptive right-of-way where the road is. Really, all we're looking at compensating them for is the additional small areas of right-of-way, some drainage easements, some slope easements, some temporary construction easements. We've gone and tried to secure those with donation. Few of them property owners did. The 3 property owners we didn't have them secured from, we had appraisals done. We had a licensed appraiser determine that value. We sent that out in December to the other 3 property owners, one of which we settled with, and in the process of offering fair market value. And that's all we legally can do, is offer the fair market value what the appraiser says. Since these are tax dollars and public money, we can't restrict more than what we believe the fair market value of the property.
And so technically, we've been maintaining that road for 60, 70
Yeah,
years
I
plus.
have no doubt.
Yeah,
See,
so,
it's town right away, but there is some additional areas. What we're looking at is, there is just small slivers. If you look at the right-of-way plats that are attached to this, there's small slivers of right-of-way outside, back in the sidewalk, there's some drainage easements, there's temporary construction easements, and it would be outside of what we determined.
nothing that's actually detrimental, in our opinion, that would hurt them. Actually, the improvements, I think, would help them.
As Steve said, the road itself will end up actually about what the road is, but as everybody knows, it's kind of hard to determine what the road is, because it's just paved, and over time, it just spread out, and become larger. So, without realigning, without shifting the burden on one property owner more than another, trying to keep the road where it was, just trying to define it. is really what we're asking.
I just want to make sure we were clear so everybody understood. So,
At the end of the day, though, the improvements are actually helping the property owners that are down there.
I have no
holding out on it right now. When it's all said and done, they'll be happy.
Any other discussion or questions?
Mike, well, yeah, how many additional parking spots is that? Can you, I
I
can't
just
see
counted
it.
13, I think.
Is it 13? Because there's 3 on,
5, 10, 13, yes, sir.
that's public parking too.
Public parking.
Okay. And stormwater regulations, or what, is any of this affected by that?
Typically on road projects, you don't have to do stormwater detention for a road project. It's just something that's the general practice. They're excluded from that in most cases, but in this case, we're actually reducing the footprint of pavement when you take out all that pavement and you take out the excess pavement here, and that will revert back to grass. We are adding the parking here, which is a little more pavement, but then in this area, by creating those spaces, that can be turned into landscaping or grass or something. So net, we're not changing the impervious area for the area by doing this project.
And, you know,
Creating a positive flow, positive drainage. Right now,
away from that corner
the
line.
parcel the town owns is like a swamp.
Yeah.
Out there where the log cabin and the post office are, it's very wet and stays very wet. So you're creating a positive drainage by taking it to a central location, like Mr. Hill said, through underground pipes to a ditch that will lead over to that regional detention basin on the forestry campus property.
and did I hear you right on the one building right there used to be Celeste, it's the insurance, I think now, or mortgage. That one I remember flooding once or twice. Is that going to?
Oh,
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that
This,
one right there.
this one has flooded multiple times, I believe.
Is it going to,
What we're
is
doing.
any of this going to help that at all?
It should help it in the fact that what's happened is water comes down Chester Street, and when it gets to that corner, the building elevation is flush with the sidewalk and almost with the street. So we're going to be lowering this part of the street. We're going to be putting a curb down through here, and there's a drain inlet about right there. And all the water will be directed to that, and then it's piped across and under the street and eventually out to that ditch. So that was a important thing to try to fix. I mean, you've got a historic structure there. You don't want to have to make it unusable by flooding or tear it down. So this is a way to hopefully fix that situation.
You may remember that S.Y. Wilson's was kayaking down there during the June 3rd rain event.
Yeah, okay, well, you know, with helping in stormwater and safety wise, that's, you know, those are two of my important things to do before I would agree to want to do this.
I was gonna say, we're fixing to have construction on the west and the east of this. Everything is really improving from an aesthetic standpoint. I mean, safety and those things we're all, I would imagine we're all agreeing on, but to delay this and go another 4 or 5 years and things on each side of it being improved, aesthetically, the streets, et cetera, walkways, and then to leave this right in the middle, which is kind of the central drive of Depot Square, to not touch it while we're doing the construction of all around it anyways, to me would be, I wouldn't say foolish, but it wouldn't be the wisest decision in my opinion. And while we're there, I mean, we're fixing to have disruption construction-wise in Depot Square for the next couple of years. I would do it right in the middle of that. Let's get it done rather than dragging it on another 5 or 6 years and having to come back and readdress this again and make it feel like, I'd rather go on and get it done rather than feeling like TDOT and having construction every month continuing forever. So I'd be in favor of moving forward with this.
All right, any more questions or comments?
The only one I got left is the brick pavers we put in years ago. Is it gonna be some on the other walkway that's coming across the street from it? Brick
Talking about
paver?
the aesthetic stamped concrete,
Well, when we do that.
and even the crosswalks too, I think, right?
The crosswalks are.
I think when we do that, we
You
need
wanna
to
address
look at our existing one, because I think yearly or every other year, we're supposed to recoat those.
Well, you do, and we did last year. But technology's come a long way in stamped concrete, and if you look at what we have now, it's very uneven, some
Right.
places deeper than others with women in heels, toddlers, children, that kind of thing can be a problem. So I'm looking at some alternatives there that'll be a little more even, a little more steady surface, but still match what's there.
There's a product out there that we're considering for this, it's stamped asphalt instead of concrete. It lets you be able to come back and overlay and then recreate that later. And if you're down at Tiger Lane on East Parkway, there's some of that was put in 8 or 10 years ago. It's a pretty heavily traveled street, and it still looks almost like it did when it was new. So something like that we think would be appropriate here, and it looks just like brick, but it's epoxy on top of asphalt with an imprint in the asphalt. I think you'll like it.
Good. Yes. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Item D, motion to amend the agreement known as Shelby County Dispatch Fee Contract. This is Mrs. Owens.
This is a standard agreement that we have with Shelby County Dispatch to offer the services. This is just a motion to amend the contract, and it's just a reduction in fees. So the agreements came down about $3,000 this year of a cost saving, so staff recommends that you approve this contract.
You heard the recommendation by Mrs. Owens. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mr. Harmon. And again, just for the record, what was that number again, that amount?
The savings?
Or the total amount that we're going to be paying?
Oh, the total amount we're going to pay,
$770.
30 cents.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Item E, acknowledge the certified tax recapture rate as determined by the Comptroller of Treasury of the State of Tennessee after appeals allowance by the Board of Equalization as $1.136985, and authorize recorder to publish notice of intent to exceed the certified tax recapture rate and a public hearing for June 4, 2018. Mrs. Owens.
Yes, sir. So last year, we did a notice of intent to exceed the certified tax rate. It was at 1.0748, and after they finished all the appeals allowances, they came back and recalculated it to the $1.136985. So this is just you guys authorizing me to do another notice of intent to exceed the certified recapture rate, and we'll have to have a public hearing at June 4th's meeting, just notifying the public that it has happened.
You heard the recommendation by Mrs. Owens. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. McKee, second by Mrs. Pardue. All right, so just for clarification.
It does not mean you're lowering it to $1.13.
No,
Okay.
I know that, but when the appraisals came out and the articles came out in the paper said that basically we essentially had a 8-cent tax increase when it was $1.07. So essentially, we're about a
penny and a half.
A penny and a half by staying at $1.15, which we stayed at.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure everybody was clear on that because it's kind of fluctuated.
We could
So-
change every year,
Yeah, but I'm just saying with the appraisals, it was, we were.
Not as much as the tax increase this year.
Yes, last year.
When we did the appeals allowance, you just didn't have as many people appeal that reappraisal hearing.
So, yeah, so it still remaining at $1.15, we're still right around that window. So we've been operating on that for 6 years, 6.5 years.
6 or 7?
Did the 15 cents right when we were voting on this in 2011 or 12. So 6 years, yeah, I think so. But, yeah. Any other questions or comments for Ms. Owens? Seeing none, all in favor of the, do you have anything to add, Ms. Owens?
No, sir.
Okay.
I was just looking for your
Oh, okay. No,
question you
I was just kind of talking out loud there. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That item passes. Any other new business, Ms. Owens?
No, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the bills for payment? Motion by Mr. Brooks. Second by Mrs. Pardue. No objection to paying the bills. Without objection, that item passes. Any other announcements before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Harmon, second by Mr. Brooks. No objection.
Somebody.
We are adjourned. Thank you.